Hi guys, Mrnewmobile here, Huawei Mate X2 hand-on. Please subscribe followed by the bell. You can also keep up on Facebook, Twitter by clicking the links in the description. The Huawei Mate X2 has been announced. So now we know all about Huawei's third generation foldable phone, including its specs and design. Succeeding the original Mate and its successor the Mate XS, this foldable is a relatively big departure from the earlier foldable. I want to say I told you so, but I did. So I just recently made a video showing guys Huawei Mate XS, one of the sexiest folding phones out. Maybe the sexiest, but my conclusion was okay, it's hot like this a lot, but is not practical, and so maybe we should stop the whole folding over the outside thing until the tech gets all the better, then we'll come back to. So now, here we have Huawei Mate X2 brand new, just got announced. I got my hands on it, and as you can see they done the thing, they've gone from an outside force to an inside folding display. So now soon a lot of things really similarly to Samsung Z Fold, to which I really liked, but there's actually couple things here that are different than making this the best folding phone. Hardware out right now. So first of all, this outside screen is even bigger and higher quality, and Samsung's to the point where it actually feels like a full-fledged smartphone. And I know we were just saying that about the Z Fold 2, because it was so much better than the first Fold, and it's poor excuse for a front screen, but the Mate X2 clearly beats out the Fold 2 as no contest. It's a full 6.45-inch diagonal, so it's actually pretty huge, and it's wider, so it's much closer to a normal. Aspect ratio is 2700 by 1600, within bezels and 90 Hz refresh rate, plus they've given it a 240 Hz touch sample rate. This looks like a normal smartphone. When holding it doesn't quite feel like one still, because of course installed twice as thick, and the fingerprint reader is on the bottom half as the power button, and obviously is not quite just like a normal phone, but the goal is to remove as many trade-offs as possible. That's with a rough trend, but will just looks like a normal smartphone, especially with the aspect ratio close to it. Anyway, a quick word on that selfie camera though. So you can see it's a double wide pull shape cut out there, so you have the selfie camera itself, and then I believe a time of flight sensor next to it, which I bet they thought a lot about on a phone like this, because that time of flight sensor is good for giving you a little bit of better depth information, and potentially better focus. One hope on a random video call, or just a quick selfie. Then I just use the regular camera. I don't need that. Is cool to have autofocus in a selfie camera, don't get me wrong, the tough light sensor helps with that, but I feel like if I actually care about an accurate portrait mode, and the depth information, I'm doing more than just a regular selfie. Well then on a phone like this I can open up the phone, and use the incredible high quality cameras on the back, and take away better selfie photo, portrait mode videos, all that stuff will be great. So just thinking, when I saw this, they probably could have left it out and just do a regular small cutout for the selfie camera, but honestly having faster autofocus for camera like this, like they did in the P40 Pro Plus, is a nice bonus. So not a huge deal. Cool to have. The point is this outside screen being away close to traditional 15:9 aspect ratio, makes it way more usable than any other outside screen on a foldable phone. It's a major strength of this Mate X2. Now we go on the inside. That's where you get your uninterrupted 8-inch display, uninterrupted because there is no selfie camera cut out at all, and really nice. It's also 90 Hz, which is pretty good. It's an 8:7.1 aspect ratio, so nearly square, and there's hardly any increase at all. I am very impressed by how well this display and hinge combine to minimize the look and feel of any crease down the middle, else definitely still there. It's not totally gone, and you can see it at the most extreme viewing angles. But it's actually much better than Samsung's Folds, and this hinge like really nicely firmly pops the phone open to flat is a good one. That is a good hinge right there. Good hinge. Show down to the hinge engineers. The engineers of course also when it's closed. Actually it's closer to flat in and flush with the back of the phone, so doesn't really protrude as much. If you know, in the Z Fold 2 it kind protrudes out the side a little bit, and when you're holding it you're holding more of that hinge. So it is impressive that they also managed to squeeze it further into the phone body itself. Feels less obtrusive that way. But then there is one especially well thing about this phone, and you might notice that by now the footage, but it's a wedge shape like this. It's a wedge going from the thinnest all around the left 4.4mm, all the way to the thickest heaviest part on the right hand side, and that is of course intentional. Always got the reasoning for it, which I feels better in the hand. So hear me out. they argue that with phones like the Z Fold, because the center of gravity is further from your hand when you hold it, that little bit of wobble feels extra heavy. Like there's a lot of weight really far from your hand, and also makes the phone feel heavy. So by putting more of the weight closer to your hand, the center of gravity is now closer to where would be in a normal phone, and the thinner and lighter bit that's outside feels lighter. I feel like this phone feels less heavy. It is still overall a pretty heavy phone, but you can tell it feels different in hand when it's open, and I think that this pattern is a fold too light when it is close. It's got this slanted midline, it's kind of funny, but that's totally fine. It still goes pretty much flush, protects the inside screen, and really the only possible downsides of this particular shape is it rocks a lot on the table, thanks to the big camera bump. But enough is annoying is not a deal breaker. A lot of phones rock, but also the total combined battery size is 4500 million powers, which is a little bit small for something with this much screen. Is funny though is it's very tempting to just give this phone a foldable phone hardware crown like straight away, just because even more so than Samsung they are using very close to their flagship bits and specs inside this phone. It's already the 90Hz, much bigger, better display on the outside, already a better like hinge design, but also this Mate X2 actually has just about the same camera system as their top-end P40 Pro Plus or Mate 40 Pro Plus, which are really good cameras. 50 megapixel gigantic 1/1.28-inch primary camera. You got a 3x telephoto and a 10x periscope zoom lens and a slightly downgraded ultra-wide, but then still got a fairly advanced speaker system that pairs a driver at the top with one at the bottom for pretty wide stereo sound as a bonus. And yes, they put some pretty specs inside to Circera 9000 chip, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 GB storage and 5G capable, got Wi-Fi 6 inches. Overall a very high-end piece of hardware in a lot of ways. It does 55 watts charging with the charger that comes in the box, which is pretty nice. It could potentially, and you have uses phone long enough to review battery life, but could potentially offset the concerning with small 4500 million powers battery, because it's a 8-inch 90Hz display and a high-end chip, no wireless charging. That is a bummer, but overall I am very impressed with this phone as a piece of hardware. I gotta say now the software situation is the same as the first Mate X, which means no Google Apps support, and this phone is not coming to the USA, but I appreciate it for how impressive and cutting edge. I'm keeping this in the back my head every time I see and get to test new folding phone, which is the end game for folding phones. It is close to just another feature as possible. They want to remove as many caveats of having a folding phone as it possibly can. It was really cool at the fold in half, but they weren't really a great idea, and a lot of other ways, but eventually if they can get it to be just as usable without folding, and just as good of battery life and just as good specs, and cameras and all that stuff, and the folding in half part is just another feature, and the price is pretty close the same as the regular phone, that's when people want them. So we have this phone. To me it's a step towards that. It's got a great outside screen, obviously it's a little bit short on battery, but while the high-end specs, really great cameras and just a really refined, maybe that's the word, a refined, experienced, really nice hinge. That is it guys, and if you are new here please subscribe, like the video, comment. Thanks for watching, see you on my next video. Peace out.